Ammo shelves have been acting real strange lately, and I'm seeing the same warning signs that showed up before the 2020 shortage starting to creep back in. So I sat down, pulled the calibers that always disappear first, checked distributor flow, and dug through import rules and manufacturing bottlenecks so you don't get caught flat-footed when the panic buying starts again. And today you need to stick around because the calibers I'm about to walk through are the ones that straight up keep you in the fight when the shelves go empty. Before we dive in, do me a solid, smash that subscribe button, tap the bell, hit all the buttons down there. You don't have to, but it keeps this channel rolling and lets me keep putting out real-world gun talk for regular folks who actually shoot. All right, housekeeping done. Let's get back to work. 22 long rifle. This is always the first caliber I stack deep. Always, because the pattern never changes. Every major ammo crunch in the last 15 years started with 22 long rifle vanishing first, before pistol ammo, before rifle ammo, before anything else. When stores tighten inventory or panic buying kicks off, 22 long rifle evaporates, fast. And the reason is simple. Everybody buys it. Brand new shooters, old school range rats, parents, trainers, survival guys. People grab it by the bucket. And rimfire factories can't just flip a switch and double output overnight. Rimfire production is slower, more delicate, more sensitive to component shortages. Once it falls behind demand, it stays behind for months. Another reason I take 22 long rifles seriously is how many rolls it fills without draining your wallet. Training, pest control, small game, backwoods carry, teaching new shooters. If I want trigger time without burning money, this is the cheapest reps you'll ever get. Even folks who don't consider it a defensive round still stock it heavy. It's small, it stores easy. You can move thousands of rounds without needing a truck bed. That combination alone is why it disappears every single buying surge. The value per cubic inch is insane. A few bricks barely take up space, but the payoff in training, survival use, and long-term security is massive. If I own anything chambered in 22 long rifle, a multi-thousand round stash is my bare minimum. This is the one caliber I never let run low, because when the market gets weird, it always gets hit first. 9mm, different animal. This is the backbone handgun round of the United States. No exaggeration. Law enforcement, concealed carriers, first-time buyers, rental ranges. Everybody runs 9mm, and when the FBI and a stack of major departments moved back from 40 Smith & Wesson to 9mm, that locked it in as the default service caliber. That means massive standing contracts, constant consumption, and way more demand pressure than most people realize. So when anything stresses the system, 9mm is one of the first centerfire calibers to spike in price and vanish off shelves. You see it every time. Election cycles heat up. A high-profile shooting hits the news. Politicians start talking restrictions. Cases of 9mm fly out the door. Ranges burn through pallets because every new shooter starts here. Defensive ammo gets hit hardest. Cheap full metal jacket might linger a little, but quality hollow points and bonded duty loads get cleaned out fast. Once those are gone, whatever scraps remain jump in price, and panic buying takes over. Because 9mm is so common, I don't treat a couple boxes as having ammo. If my carry gun, nightstand pistol, or training handgun runs 9mm, I want a real buffer. Practice ammo for regular training, plus a clean reserve of my chosen defensive load, untouched. If things tighten again, I want to be the guy still training, not the guy whining that a basic range trip now costs double. 223 Remington and 5.56 NATO. When I look at rifle ammo that actually matters long-term, these sit at the top. This is AR food, from weekend shooters to cops to smaller agencies running patrol rifles. Anytime politics heat up around so-called assault weapons, people don't just buy rifles. They strip the shelves bare of 5.56 and 223, and that crushes supply way faster than casual rifle owners expect. Same pattern every time. Ban talk, big protests, global drama. This caliber gets hammered. Here's the angle most folks miss. Military and government demand eats a massive chunk of global 5.56 production. The United States and NATO partners ship unbelievable quantities to conflict zones. When that ramps up, civilian factories don't magically gain capacity. If anything, contract orders get priority. Add to that training facilities, carbine classes, and three-gun matches all running heavy on 223 and 5.56. Civilian demand stays high even in quiet years. If you own an AR, I treat ammo like fuel. I keep one pile for training, and a separate hard reserve of whatever defensive or duty load runs best in my rifle. If things get weird again, I'd rather be zeroing optics and running drills than arguing over the last two boxes at the counter. 12-gauge buckshot and slugs. Shotgun shooters get hit with a special kind of pain. Stores will show a full wall of 12-gauge, but 90% of it is birdshot. Great for clays, fine for small game, useless for serious home defense. During the 2020 ammo mess, people were posting shelf photos where the only 12-gauge left was light target loads. Buckshot and slugs were gone. Completely. That happens because hunters, cops, and home defense owners all draw from the same pool of quality, 00 buck, and proper slugs. Manufacturers focus on high-volume birdshot because big retailers move it every day. Law enforcement alone consumes a surprising amount of premium 12-gauge buck. Even with patrol rifles becoming common, shotguns still ride in cruisers, still get used for breaching, still get trained with. That means constant orders for specific patterns of 00 buck and reduced recoil loads. At the same time, defensive shotgun ammo uses different wads, buffering, and tighter quality control. It costs more to make and doesn't get produced as fast. When supply chains tighten or components get scarce, niche products fall behind first. If my main home gun is a pump or semi-auto 12-gauge, I don't gamble. I keep a real stash of my chosen buckshot and a smaller but solid stash of slugs for barrier work or distance shots. Simple goal: never be forced to defend your home with bargain dove loads. 7.62 by 39. AK shooters deal with a different headache, and it starts with where their ammo comes from. The American market for this caliber has always leaned hard on foreign production. Russian, Eastern European, steel case. Chinese guns and ammo got cut off in the mid-90s under a Clinton-era import ban. That supply line's been dead for decades. Then in 2021, the State Department sanctioned Russia and stopped approving new ammo import permits. Existing licenses ran out. No new ones got approved. That killed off the cheap Tula, Wolf, and Bernal steel case pipeline AK owners depended on. Once Russia got choked off, the backup became places like Serbia and Bosnia. Parabai Partizan and Igman picked up a lot of that demand, mostly brass case. Now those sources are under pressure too. Serbia has paused or restricted some arms and ammo exports. On top of that, new U.S. tariffs are threatening Serbian manufacturers. We're talking 30% plus. That could push brands like PPU out of the American market entirely. That's a lot of instability stacked onto one caliber. Because of that, I treat 7.62 by 39 like a finite resource. If I own an AK or an SKS, I keep a deeper bench than I do for most handgun rounds. Bulk for training, plus a solid stash of soft point or hunting loads that actually group in my rifle. Simple goal: my rifle doesn't depend on foreign politics and a couple factories across the ocean. 308 or 7.62 NATO. This one lives at the crossroads: hunting, precision rifles, serious business rifles. So I treat it as a priority caliber. No question. You've got cops using 7.62 NATO for designated marksman roles. Every deer camp in America has bolt guns in 308. And the battle rifle crowd runs AR-10 setups, SCARs, M1 platforms. When ammo runs start, that entire ecosystem pulls from the same pool. Same brass, same bullets, same powder. That's why 308 prices jump hard when raw materials spike or military demand increases. It has a huge footprint, so it reacts fast. Global events hit this caliber too. Western militaries still rely on 7.62 NATO for machine guns and precision work. Contracts get fed first. Civilian lines don't shut down, but they get squeezed. Then hunting season rolls around every year and quietly drains soft point and match-grade inventory. So you've got seasonal demand stacked on top of political noise and military contracts. That's why 308 is rarely cheap anymore. and why the good stuff sells out first. If my main hunting or defensive rifle runs 308 or 7.62 NATO, I build a stash intentionally. Ball ammo for training, hunting or match loads that match my zero and dope. So I'm not re-zeroing because I grabbed random boxes. Goal stays the same. That rifle stays ready year-round, not dependent on leftovers. Your oddballs, last piece of the puzzle, all the weird stuff in your safe. 40 Smith & Wesson, 45 ACP, 10 millimeter, 357 Magnum, 44 Magnum, 30-30, 243, whatever isn't 9 millimeter or 5.56. Manufacturers run these calibers in batches, not nonstop. When demand spikes or factories are tied up making hot sellers, these calibers get skipped. So during panics, you'll walk into shops and see entire calibers missing. Mainstream stuff might exist at insane prices. Oddballs vanish. Another issue is defensive and specialty loads. A lot of people still carry 40 Smith & Wesson or 45 ACP. Revolver shooters love 357 Magnum and 44 Magnum. Premium hollow points, hard cast, bonded loads aren't stocked deep. Stores carry small quantities. When panic hits, that tiny inventory evaporates. Now you're left with sketchy brands or nothing. I'd rather have my carry loads and woods loads squared away early, so my system is boring. But it works. I list every caliber I own. For each one, I set a hard floor for defensive ammo and a separate floor for training or hunting. Maybe that's only a few boxes for a revolver I shoot twice a year, and a lot more for a 40 Smith & Wesson duty pistol I run in classes. Core idea is simple. If shelves went sideways tomorrow, I want every gun I own fully supported by what's already in my house. No scrambling, no begging, no overpaying, just shooting.